Welcome to the first and hopefully many discussions we Fisker owners will be having with key people from American Lease, IndiGO, and OV Loop. We have on the call today Matt Nelson, also known as Mountain Ranger from Ocean Views podcast, Brandon Dean from Platinum Precision LLC, and myself, Chad Sturgill from Electrified Ocean, and Fisker Ocean Hacks and Mods on Facebook. Today, we'll be asking a number of questions that will hopefully shed a lot of light on the future plans and joint partnership of American Lease, IndiGO, OV Loop, and the Fisker owners. From American Lease, we have Executive Vice President Josh Bleiberg, along with Will Graylin, CEO of IndiGO and OV Loop, and he's joined by their Chief Operating Officer and Chief Compliance Officer, Igor Kogan, and Ivan Delgadillo. I think I said that wrong. Systems engineer for OV Loop. Welcome to the call, everybody. If I can get us started, Josh, I would like to turn over to you and ask if I wanted to know if you wanted to set the record straight. I think you have done that for the most part with things that's been shared with Adam, Everything's EV podcast, but I know there's some points of clarification you probably would like to make as a preface to our discussion. So if you could, that would be great.
Thanks, Chad, for the intro. I don't want to get into the whole story about what happened and how it happened, but I do want to address a couple of things that I know are common questions or concerns that are out there in the ownership group that weren't necessarily shared with the world. One of them being what the deal was supposed to be from inception, and the other one being where the money went, how much we received, and what it was allocated to. So the original agreement, and again, this was all verbal and happening in real time as we were negotiating this deal with the bankruptcy attorneys to purchase our cars, and then that got wrapped into the agreement with the FOA and then the trustee and recalls, and it was all kind of happening in real time, rapid fire in bankruptcy court. But the original deal that we were able to ink at the 11th hour on the courthouse steps with the FOA on a handshake agreement was that they were going to pay $500,000 a year to Heights Capital or the IP Trust in exchange for the vehicles that were not owned by American Lease, because we negotiated a royalty-free license in our purchase agreement, to not be auctioned off essentially to the highest bidder at a bankruptcy liquidation. So it took a lot of hard negotiation, but the agreement was that for the sum of $2.5 million over 5 years, payable at $500,000 a year, American Lease was going to have the sole license to the current Fisker Ocean cloud and the entire connected environment. And that went from just being for our cars, but that now included everyone else's cars in the Fisker Ocean cloud. There was an agreement that we stood up as American Lease as a business to make these payments. We took on a very onerous and harsh penalty in the contract for any potential IP leaks or violations of IP. And it was our job to safeguard it and to safeguard the cloud. We had previously been working with OV Loop IndiGO to be our technology management company for this project. And the agreement was that the FOA would similarly come into an agreement with IndiGO OV Loop to be their technology manager. They were going to be the keeper of the gate for the IP. So the FOA did make that first $500,000 payment. We got into discussions about what does that payment mean? What does it entitle people to? What does it entitle the FOA to? Are they able to access IP? Are they able to access source code? What we agreed on was that whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen professionally with insurance and businesses that were registered, and it was all going to be gone through with OV Loop IndiGO being the keeper of the gate for the project. That agreement with the FOA and IndiGO never materialized, which forced American Lease to pull back the signed MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding that I had with the FOA, because there couldn't be an agreement between American Lease and the FOA if there was no agreement between the FOA and IndiGO. Then on top of that, the FOA never paid their bills. The agreement was to always split the cloud costs, and that's Microsoft, Azure, T-Mobile, whatever else. There's some smaller components that are plugged in. The agreement was always to split it based on the number of cars in the pool, right? So there's 10,000 oceans globally. We have roughly 2,900 cars. The FOA at the time had 4,000 cars. That was the ratio we were going to split. As more members were signing up to join the FOA, that individual per car cost would go down for everyone because we would be sharing the cost. Those payments were never made. They were promised. Without going into the whole story of how it happened, we were asking for those payments for a protracted period of time. They never came. We said, okay, we are forced to turn off the cloud access for all these vehicles, and and then the shutdown happened. Post that shutdown happening, after I said we have to turn all the cars off, the FOA did send a payment for T-Mobile, but it was less than half of the amount that was due, and it was sent under protest. So we still have that money, and we didn't spend it, but so far it's roughly a third of what was supposed to have been paid by the FOA. So I just wanted to clear the air and understand. People should understand, I'm sorry, that it's just a question. It was a billing dispute. This wasn't done on short notice. This was a long 4 or 5 month protracted slow breakdown in communication that led to everyone's cars being disconnected.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for sharing that point of clarification on the business side. Yeah, I think anybody putting themselves in your shoes would have to make a similar decision. Will, just from your perspective, can you explain IndiGO and OV Loops, I guess, side of the business and how they will be interacting with the owners, and what your immediate plans are for release to the owners, and also what that future roadmap and the timelines will look like? And this is also just a preface to our follow-up questions that we'll be asking.
Thank you, Chad. The relationship between OV Loop, IndiGO, and American Lease started prior to us taking on the responsibilities that that Josh had mentioned. And for us, we had always been there to look at serving American Lease with the vehicles that they're acquiring. And initially, of course, as I explained to Adam, we initially was thinking that the FOCE cloud could actually be split into American Lease's own environment. Everything was set up to go in that direction. As we move forward, Josh had already explained the dynamics. We were very much planning to work with the FOA for the rest of the vehicles and continue to maintain, debug existing bugs that have been there, and then further add additional releases as we go. Going forward now, what we are really looking at doing, given Josh's explanation earlier, is now for us to set up a individual service for those who want to pay for the connectivity, the live customer support and service, the ability to have upgraded software, and to have remote unlock and various functions and features that we have been planning, and to offer that directly to the individual members that want to take that service on. So OV Loop is going to be fronting that service. We're going to be setting up the landing site. We're going to be offering those capabilities and services directly to the individuals that pay. And OV Loop will be taking responsibility for the software side and the cloud management, as well as the customer support and interactions. And then working with any of the physical support that needed to be done, and referring them to various locations for whether it's repairs or parts or recalls. So that'll be the responsibility that we're planning to take on, and I can explain a little bit more on what the bug fixes mean, and then what are the future releases that we're planning. Still pending on a couple of things, which means including a relationship with Harman that allows us to get the images, and then there's still some question marks on further future releases that require homologation.
That sounds
If I could just add one point of clarification, Chad. This project for the owners that Will is describing has no affiliation with American Lease. I think I've said from the beginning of this transaction that my business is not geared to be B2C. We're a strictly commercial business. The plan was always to have the FOA acting as the business arm of the outreach to the owners and the customer support to the owners. This is an initiative that IndiGO OV Loop has decided to take on because they already have the staff and the manpower to be able to handle it. So for people watching this, I've gotten a fair amount of emails of people sending stuff to American Lease or people calling my office. This will be a strictly IndiGO OV Loop project. They will have points of contact, and American Lease really has no direct involvement in this project.
No, that sounds great, Josh. It sounds very much like a kind of a hub and spoke where OV Loop is the hub and American Lease is a spoke, and the individual owners will also be a spoke in that as well.
Correct.
Perfect.
And Chad, just to add, the service is going to be called Ocean Loop. And for those who want to join the loop and participate in the service, OV Loop is planning to do our best to support this service and stand it up and interact and work with the ocean owners that are out there. We know that this is not our original plan, but given where we are, we're going to do the best that we can to make this service for Ocean Loop a well managed service. We'll do the best that we can.
Oh, thank you, Will. One of the things I did hear from some of the owners is they were a little confused about the notice that they got in the email from Ocean Loop at fiskerinc.com. I know that went out with not a whole lot of explanation in the beginning. Can you talk about maybe those communications and how you foresee that getting better in the future?
Yeah, we will definitely get better at getting that communication out. We knew that Adam's video was going to come out, and we knew that there was going to be a lot of questions. And I would apologize for our team not getting our stuff all together before firing. And we need to aim better next time. And we're pulling staff from multiple areas of the organization, as you can imagine, to respond to this need. This wasn't initially planned, so we definitely are scrambling. And our goal is to get this offering within the next 2 weeks, be ready for people to be able to sign up. And as soon as it does, we're going to let you guys know. We're going to give you the URL for people to join the Ocean Loop, and setting the service, setting the website, and then also working on the application as we speak. We'll talk a little bit about the offerings as I'm sure you guys have lots of questions, as do the audience.
Thanks, Will. Now, I guess if we go a little bit deeper into some of the things you said, one of the things that stands out to me is the future 2.x updates, and I'm assuming from what I heard, both from you all talking to me privately and as well through what Adam had shared publicly on his podcast, we have a 2.5 and 2.6 update. From the owner's perspective, what level of competency do they need, and are there any tools that they will need to have in order to be able to accept those updates once they are a member of Ocean Loop and are a subscriber?
Yeah, good question, Chad. For 2.5, it's purely a software update. Again, pending the image of us getting from Harman. That will not require any kind of competencies or setup. So that I'll walk through some of the 2.5 planned releases that we're currently working on, and we'll go through final QA before obviously we release it. The goal is, if everything goes smoothly and we have the kind of demand for that release, and again, our goal is to be able to at least break even for us. We know that initially it's probably not going to be there with the number of users, but our goal is to be able to get to break even. But for 2.5, it's a straight OTA release. And then for 2.6 with CarPlay and Android Auto, because the chipset on the ICC did not support CarPlay, and we needed an alternative way to get a separate kit built and a separate set of cables built. And that's going to go through the USB interface. So the competency is not going to be high. I don't think you need a tech to install that. We'll provide instructional videos. And ultimately, it's about creating a kit that we can mail out to those who decide to purchase that upgrade. And we believe that it's going to be in the hundreds of dollars and not thousands of dollars.
Okay.
We didn't want to set a price until we actually know our full cost at that point. But I think it's going to be a reasonable price that users will be happy to have. But we also want to properly QA it. So our timeline for that is probably going to be sometime, around September 1st. Assuming that all the sequence of QA goes according to plan.
And I'm assuming you'll have a handful of Ocean owners that you will offer this to as a beta. I'm selfishly asking for myself.
We'll look for a few good beta users that can give us feedback.
I think you have a few people on here that would probably be eager to do that. So
absolutely, we'd love to get your feedback.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Will. And I know we'll go into a little bit more detail on the 2.5, 2.6 releases on some other questions here, but there's also been some other questions out there with regards to the claims around the Fisker API and it not being secure. And I'd really like to understand from OV Loop's perspective how you plan on fixing that and other cloud security issues and what kind of impact that may have with tools that are already out there like Fisker Fi or even Ocean Link Pro or things like that.
Yeah, great question, Chad. Even before we took over the stack, as you know, there were various points of vulnerabilities. Some of them were patched before we got involved, and then some were further patched as we move forward. We also knew about the Fisker Fi side of things and the APIs that could be called upon, essentially setting up a proxy server for those of you guys who know how that works. And in good faith, we knew where that was coming from and why they were doing it. So we maintained the uptime for that endpoint and that endpoint happens to be all the Fisker official app also hits that endpoint. And so bottom line is that when the relationship went a different direction, and Josh was not going to continue to pay for those services without an agreement, he asked us to go ahead and shut off those particular endpoints that would have cost additional dollars and additional money. And for us, that also is an opportunity for us to fix the endpoint and to no longer allow the same endpoints be open up to all the applications as well as the proxy servers, and then to recreate security on top of that. And the way that we handle security is going to be through another secure endpoint that is vetted for our payment-related applications. So we've been working on wallet type of applications with OV Loop, and really a blockchain era cryptography type of next generation individual account ownership of their wallet. So from a PCI security and PCI DSS, we have to follow all of that level of security, SOC 2 type of security. And from there, adding this new endpoint within that container will make it more secure and make it much harder for people to get access to the FOCE. So we're going to put the FOCE on the other side of that endpoint. And in addition to that, our application for phone key access, remote unlock, your own private diagnostic will be put into a Ocean Loop container inside of the OV Loop or Go Loop application where the wallet resides. So we wanted to make sure that it's properly contained, properly secured. And furthermore, as you know, the SDK that was provided by Chevalier, that particular SDK was purely a PKC SDK. What we did was we further, whatever they offered to the FOA or anyone else, that's an SDK that whoever builds the application has the responsibility of securing and putting it out to the world. We put a separate security wrapper on top of that because we know how important it is to maintain security, including the Bluetooth keys that gets coupled and gets used by the PKC. So our security container around that SDK then is embedded inside of our Go Loop app. And then from that Go Loop app hitting our secure endpoint, and then the Fisker Ocean cloud on the other side. So we take security very seriously for obvious reasons, especially when money's at stake. It's not easy to make things secure. It's always a cat and mouse game, as you know, Chad. You being in the security space yourself.
Yeah.
So it is. At least the good news is we have a team of people focused in on it, and we take it very seriously. And our goal is to maintain security for the owners and the users that are out there. For our wallet applications and Go Loop users, and then also for the Ocean Loop users that are leveraging the same platform.
That's really great to hear, Will. Like you said, I have a background in information security and been doing this since the late '90s, and it's partial to, to my interest around what we as owners are really up against from a security perspective. Anytime you're talking about a car that has ADAS features, whether they were finished or not, they're still there. Just making sure that the car is secure and it can't do something, like easily do something that we don't want it to do while we're driving down the road is really important. So I really appreciate that you have information security and IoT security in mind and keeping this car secure.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to turn it over to Matt for a few questions. Matt, if you could go ahead and ask those.
I'm going to be asking questions about the upcoming OS updates. When is OS 2.5 planning to be rolled out?
Matt, for our goal is to get 2.5 image ready for QA sometime in the month of June, if we can get that external QA besides our internal. If that goes well, fingers crossed, we target for July 1st to be able to get it out there.
Gotcha. In addition to 2.6 that was mentioned, are there also going to be incremental updates like a 2.7 or a 2.8 on the horizon?
Yeah, whether it's 2.7 or whatever nomenclature that we add to it, it really depends on the bug fixes. We certainly want to be able to hear feedback from the Ocean owners, and if there are bug fixes, there are some feature enhancements that we have been planning, but there's still big questions on homologation, and unless those get resolved from a homologation legal aspect. The first two releases, of course, is planned for 2.5 and 2.6. Again, pending the Harman image being provided and paid for by us, obviously through the owners. So I can show you a little bit of the timeline,
Sure.
for the audience. That might be a little bit helpful, and then we can get back to your other questions. I'm going to send a request to you to share my screen. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll go through this. I'll go through this quickly. So the 2.5 release external, if everything goes well, would be targeted for July 1st. This is still pending, both the Harman image side of things, but I would say whether we call this 3, 2, 7, 2, 8, it doesn't really matter. This has some things that require some homologation questions to be answered. And so we're going to leave this to the side, Matt. I think that was your question, is beyond 2.6, are there any planned releases? And the answer is yes, there are functions and features, including one pedal drive. And there are some things that also is not able to be released by the OTA, which is the ADAS work that had been done. Some of those are going to, because they're such large releases, you'd have to literally go to a tech, and it may be a 5 to 7 hour upload to get that release done. But we don't even know whether we can get that through homologation yet, because there is no Fisker entity left, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're being very transparent on the things that we have worked on, and these are potential, but not promised. So in terms of the 2.5 release, these are some of the key features in 2.5 release, which means the horizontal mode, the movie mode, and being able to do landscape and portrait. We created a support for Wi-Fi connection or phone as hotspot connection. So that'll be part of that release. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to watch a movie through T-Mobile, and it would be pretty expensive if people have a habit of doing that. But if they wanted to hook up to their hotspot or to their Wi-Fi, certainly we'd welcome that. The range reset. I think most of you have experienced, the more aggressive you are, the range continues to come down. And we want people to be able to reset their driving habits and reset the range. There's a number of things here that is self-explanatory. If you have any questions on this, definitely stop me and let me know, and we can address it. But I'm sure people will hit pause and they can look through this list. I'll show you some of the screenshots of the list, including the 2-hour standby, which means it used to be 10 minutes when when you go to a store, you leave for 10 minutes. If you come in within 10 minutes, it's much faster reboot. But we thought that 2 hours is a much better time, and gives you a faster way to get off and going. The range reset, the 4 extended exterior chime mode that you can set. The automatic theme control based on lighting, portrait mode here. The CarPlay will be 2.6, not so much 2.5. Regen, you can then set the low, medium, high based on the specific mode rather than just the current way. Torque vectoring only is for hyper mode and for fun mode. And then a 12 volt battery status. Some of this required some bug fixes also in 2.5. And again, I don't need to go through this point by point, but you see some of the bug fixes for 2.5 that we're incorporating. As far as 2.6 is concerned, we have a hardware box that's integrated through the USB port that will give the Android Auto and CarPlay functionality, and it'll work through Bluetooth as well. And this is a custom cable, and we have to make the custom length, but we'll send the instructions out. Again, we want you guys to be early testers and debuggers to let us know the experience before we go out there and do this. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to your questions.
One of the big questions is a lot of owners haven't been upgraded to the full 2.2 yet. And if they're on 2.0 or 2.1, can they go directly to 2.5?
The answer is no. We will need to upgrade them to
Okay.
2.2.1 and 2.2.2 anyway. We have a responsibility to if they're a subscriber, we're going to help upgrade them. Some of them are NHTSA recalls, as you know.
Mhm.
And so we'll do those upgrades and then the migration to 2.5 and beyond.
Just a
Gotcha.
point of clarification there, the US owners are going to get to 2.2 regardless of subscription. That's part of the NHTSA recall. This is in relation to all the cars that are already on 2.2 and will go to 2.3, as well as all the European or any global cars, non-US cars.
Great point, Josh.
Now, just a point of clarification there, is that 2.2.2 or all of the recall cars going to go to 2.2.2?
2.2.2. The NHTSA recalls are very specific in terms of the modules that have to be upgraded. And every single recall, and there are more than just the ones from 2.2 that were prior, are addressed with 2.2.2. So anything sub that is required by the NHTSA recalls. Anything above that, it is the trustee's position that is not included in what the estate is paying for the recalls.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
All right. Next up is I guess, a hypothetical in a way. If a customer signs up and gets the updates that they want and then stops paying after that, will you revert the car back to an older update or remove any features? That has been a concern.
No, we will not remove any features.
Okay.
The only thing that they won't get is they will not get connectivity anymore, and we won't be able to see their endpoints for those devices. And so until they subscribe back again, we don't have diagnostics, we don't know what version they're on, and we can't provide customer support and remote unlock and so on and so forth.
All right. Next question is about PKC 21 that's being worked on with Chevalier and FOA. Is that something that may possibly be licensed in the future by IndiGO, or is there some other version of PKC that may come about?
We have our own version of PKC that's the latest from Chevalier, and that we have put the security wrapper that I explained to you. That'll go into the application. So we do not need any other PKCs, and so we have the latest version with Chevalier.
Will any updates from IndiGO prevent OceanLink Pro from technically functioning? It's mentioned that there's diagnostics, preconditioning, remote start, phone is a key. And how would you differentiate what you're planning to offer as opposed to what OLP is planning?
So we can't speak to what anyone else is planning to do, but from what I understand, some of the previous solutions that are out there relied on the endpoint that was exposed for the Fisker app. And because that endpoint, as I explained earlier, had some vulnerabilities, we shut that endpoint down. So without that endpoint and hitting the FOC server, I don't know how they plan to connect to the devices and the vehicles themselves. And any interactions with the device through the PKC would be through basically near field and Bluetooth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different channel entirely, and it won't touch the FOCE security endpoints.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. I guess we'll have Brandon talk about some service questions.
All right. So obviously we have numerous questions. One of the first ones is that I get all the time is, with cars being disconnected from cloud connectivity, will the FAST tool still operate?
So the FAST tool still operates as long as the FAST tool is certified and connected to us. And so the FOCE and the cloud will be able to see the FAST tools that are certified coming through. And every piece of work or update is properly logged. So we'll be able to see for a particular Fisker Ocean's owner's car what has been done officially. And that's the good thing about the fast tools themselves, is that it's reliable, it's been tested, and everything that it does is properly logged. So, we can see the history of what's been done to the car. So the answer is yes. If it's certified fast tool, it will have access and will be able to service the vehicle, provided that that particular vehicle is also a member that we can see what's going on and help diagnose that vehicle also.
Understand. So next question, you mentioned that, only for service providers that have, an agreement with OV Loop or Ocean Loop for Fast. Do you mind sharing what the cost to these providers for Fast is?
So in terms of the cost, we're still trying to determine whether that's the right cost. But currently, the annual license fee for the fast tool, I believe, is 6,000 or 500 monthly.
And we also offer, Will, there is a weekly option there also for people. So there's an annual, and we built this together because, again, this was a bill that American Lease is paying. There's an annual with a discount. There is a monthly rental, and there's a weekly rental for people to have flexibility. That's one of the things that I've seen out there also, that American Lease is charging like $200,000 for a fast tool. People should understand that creating a new fast tool with all the components to it costs over $5,000. So for people that think this is a exorbitantly high amount, it's kind of just the cost of the actual materials in the tool itself.
Next question. If the provider has a fast license through OV Loop and IndiGO, would that include any IP files if, say, they have OFT as well, or anything in that regard? Or is that something that we're looking to do separate from fast?
You're a master tech, Brandon, and some of my techs now have OFT. There are things that fast can't do or hasn't been programmed to do yet that OFT does, but the average user, and there I think are a larger number of people now than were ever intended to have OFT. It's a very dangerous tool. If you don't know what you're doing, you can irreparably break a car. To Will's point, it doesn't keep logs. You have no way of seeing what somebody did, who did it, when it was done. I think that's a question to be discussed because there is a need for OFT out there. But I think, I would defer to your expertise here. You have to be really careful about who's using it. There has to be some type of a training or certification process to use OFT. Tech has to have proper insurance. You're really taking on a lot of liability when you're using that tool.
Absolutely. Now that kind of leads me to another question. Do you guys plan on offering some kind of certification or training process for anybody who wants to get in on the technical side of it? If you have any future providers coming forward that want to adapt to ocean service?
We do.
Definitely.
Awesome. So there obviously has been a lot of talk, a rumor mill about FOA providing people who have OFT with IP files and licensing and things like that, supposedly for a 5 to 10% kickback off of their service bill as long as they are an FOA member. Do you have any comment on that as far as legalities, if that makes sense?
Before we had this interview, just to make sure that nothing was discussed that I wasn't aware of, I had emailed all the relevant trustees and IP holders on the Heights side and the bankruptcy attorney and the managing trustee in Europe, just to confirm. Anyone who is using OFT right now in a commercial function is stealing IP, period. There's no diplomatic way of saying that. There was no license agreement signed by the FOA or anybody else. Any of the components of IP in the OFT tool right now are not licensed, not vetted, and not approved.
All right. I'm going to turn it back over to Chad for a few, and I'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh and Brandon. It seems that one of the biggest concerns for the over-the-air updates were owners having failed updates, and this includes random times when the updates or were being pushed without the owner's knowledge. So the vehicle started updating in the middle of driving or intermittent, like during their intermittent stops or while they were parked in between errands. And you know, some people were stuck with having to wait for their car to update or having to get their car towed because they interrupted the update. How do you plan on rectifying that going forward and preventing something like that from happening again?
Yeah, Chad, you're exactly hitting on the point on why we decided to change the process from the original work that we were doing with FOA to do like 50 in a day, and telling them not to touch their vehicle for 2 days, and we would be updating them throughout those days and not having direct communications. What we plan to do is a lot of things that we learned from that lesson, which is what we need to do is time the updates when the cars are not moving. Number one, having communications with the owners that are signing up are going to allow us to know exactly who we're going to be updating, and we're going to be batching them and letting them specifically know that we're going to update during 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. This particular day, and we're going to batch them the way that we were doing it before, so that we don't run into any issues where it's inconveniencing them, and at the same time, giving them some proper instructions to make sure that that 12-volt battery is charged. And I think having a direct communication as well as very specific instructions on when we're going to update, and also updating at times when they're not, we don't want to inconvenience anybody in the middle of an afternoon when they have to go run errands, right? Telling them that they need to leave their car for X number of period of time. So these are all lessons that we've actually learned, and we will be applying them during the course of OTA updates going forward.
So that being said, it sounds like you're going to start those updates back up again, or are you still doing them now? The recall work?
We have addressed the vast majority of recalls, and there are a much smaller percentages that we're going to turn on and do the updates in batches, and then continuing to work on the recall updates. But for people that are subscribers of Ocean Loop, um, for those we will directly work with and immediately get them, through 2.2.2 and into 2.2.3. And then when, of course, the future updates are ready, we will also systematically inform them if they paid for those updates to get those updates.
So anybody who is an Ocean Loop subscriber will be updated to the full 2.2 version, which is now being labeled 2.2.3, correct?
Correct. Chad, with some exceptions of, as you know, there are some vehicles that have just some issues that we cannot remotely over the air update. Maybe some ECU module is either problematic, defunct, or something on the T-Rex doesn't allow us to get all the way through. For those that are genuinely problematic that we cannot, after several attempts to OTA, we will refer them over to Josh's group and to look at physical ways of updating those software.
And I'm assuming that could also include but potentially parts replacements and a technician and visiting that person.
Correct.
Okay, very good. For those cars that are not currently connected through OV Loop, obviously nobody is a subscriber today for OV Loop. Are you just temporarily turning on the access to those cars in order to update them right now for those remaining ones?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then that service will be disabled once you're done, unless that individual ends up joining OV Loop between then and now.
That's correct, Chad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And it just, we will pay for the bandwidth and pay for the connectivity for that duration of the update. And once that's complete, depending on whether they're a member or not, then we'll either shut them back off or keep them on.
Now, Going through like once, let's say OV Loop, I'm sorry, Ocean Loop, too many OVs and loops and oceans. Once Ocean Loop is established and the owners are able to join that, how will communications between OV Loop and the owner be, I guess, how will that process work in order for them to get an over-the-air update, whether it's 2.2.3 or 2.5 or 2.6, or how do you envision this happening so that the owner is not
Sure.
surprised?
So number one, we will have email updates outbound to them. Um, and they can also inbound email us at oceanloop@fiskerinc.com. And then there's also a phone number that we'll provide them for them to call customer service during business hours when we're staffing the customer service reps. And that's 978-488-4223. And so those would be the ways of bi-directional communication.
And this is kind of an add-on question that I'm just thinking about now, but will the owner, once they get to the full or to version 2.5, then be able to select their and push their own update to 2.6? Is that something you're looking and at the Harmon image to add so that the owner can have more control over their update going forward?
I think those releases are separate and independent.
Mhm.
And I think when you get to the 2.6 release, we literally will have to physically mail you a kit and instructions. And of course, some people will inevitably, pick up the phone and call if they have some issues.
Okay.
And that's what customer support is there for.
So you don't suspect that version 2.6 will have yet another over-the-air update to change the ICC image? It'll
The
be
ICC image would have to be changed in order to have the CarPlay functionality, because that's a separate image that requires a security protocol between our APK and the Harman hardware that allows for the USB connection. Without the 2.6, the hardware won't work,
Mhm.
and the whole system actually just won't work. So that's why we need to get as much QA done with you guys as possible. And so that's why we separated those as two separate releases.
And I realize I'm probably asking questions here where you're kind of right on the edge of not knowing some of the details yet. So um, that's fine. We realize that's a path that we're leading to. So that's good. And we'll uncover more as we get closer to those days.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I think we got some other questions around recall work, and I want to pass the baton over to Brandon to have him ask some of those questions.
All right, so real quick, one back regarding fast. It looks like 2.5 and 2.6 are both primarily just ICC reflashes. Are there future plans for anything being uploaded to the Fast manifest automatically? So if you're a paid subscriber with Fast, will you have the ability to flash these cars to further software? With that being said, if you do, how does that work with a subscription service to Ocean Loop? Because obviously we don't want to manually update cars versus OTA if that's an option, so on and so forth. So, and I know there was a lot of, you know, communication issues as far as, OTA being the only way to receive updates, and we know that's not true.
No,
Yeah.
there are cars that for whatever reason OTA just doesn't work. It fails. They're in bad zones. So I think it's going to be a combination of both, and I'll let Will speak to it more. But there'll always be cars that need to have text touch them, and that's just going to be kind of potluck depending on the vehicle itself.
Yeah, I would say there's the manifest that comes through for fast to upload. If you're talking about 2.5 or 2.6, obviously we want them to be subscribers and have paid for the service. And The good thing about Fast is it does record, all it does log the updates that it does, and hopefully, people that are doing the Fast tool updates, would adhere to people, um, subscribing rather than just uploading the manifest without. But we'll figure it out one way or another in the long run, and obviously we'll communicate with the end user if they had not paid for 2.5 or 2.6.
Under,
But
yeah.
we'll be in communications with the techs, and of course with the owners and the subscribers, and we'll have good faith that people are gonna do the right things.
Right. So ultimately, it sounds like, in order to get those updates, whether they're OTA or installed by a technician, that they have to be an Ocean Loop subscriber.
Yes,
Ultimately.
yes.
Awesome. On to recalls. Obviously, there's been a lot of emails come out regarding reimbursement for recalls and things of that nature. Do you guys have a price structure on what those reimbursement rates will be?
Yeah, let me give a little background on the recall stuff also, because I know that's a point of confusion for a lot of people. The trustee asked American Lease to help with the recalls because there was no one else to do it, and they have a very, very limited budget to complete these recalls. And the plan was, and what we rolled out was that the first recall we were going to address was getting all the cars up to 2.2.2, and IndiGO deployed those cars over the air as much as possible. Now that we've gone through the majority of cars that can take the 2.2.2 update OTA, we sent out these emails to schedule recall installs as well as to reimburse people for the work that was already done. I have the schedule as far as cost. I think that was something you asked about. The pricing is as follows as far as reimbursement. And please keep in mind, this is dictated by the Chapter 7 trustee. It's not like if I pay less money to a tech, then American Lease gets to keep the money. This is all stuff that's getting paid out by the trust itself. Water pump and door handle check is 175. Replacing a failed door handle, which again is not that plastic piece in the middle that rots, but just one that fails the tension test. That's 85 for non-NFC, 100 for NFC. 2.2.2 or up to it manual update. Water pump and door handle check 375. And again, these are prices that are set by the Chapter 7 trustee with the goal in mind of having every owner getting these updates and having the budget for it.
With you said with water pumps, the door handle check in 2.2 is 375. Do you happen to have a dollar amount for 2.2.2 alone?
Alone, no, we haven't contemplated that. The
Okay.
theory being that if the car is already going in, we're going to replace everything. If we see a fair amount of that, we'll have to go back to the trustee and have that priced out.
Right. Awesome. In the future, again, are service facilities going to be able to bill the trustee directly, or are we just going to try to stick to a reimbursement option where customers would have to submit paperwork and be
No,
reimbursed?
they'll bill us as we bring providers on board. We have our affiliate shop in New York is going to be open starting next week. We'll start scheduling people. I have a shop in LA and I have a shop in Waco, which is central in Texas. They can start doing it next week. We'll bring on more service providers. If people like you would like to, join the pool, we will add everyone in geographically. We're trying to hit the largest geographic areas by concentration first, and then work our way down. But if there are shops, we need right now. We need a shop in really like Illinois area. I need a shop in Florida. There are certain pockets where there are a larger concentration of oceans that we're looking to onboard shops to do the work. But we're starting with those three, and then any other techs like yourself that are watching this that want to join on, just shoot me an email and we'll put them into that warranty work pool.
Awesome. So just for clarification, the only expenses being reimbursed are recall work, i.e. door handle replacement if need be, water pumps, and 2.2.
Correct. So
Right.
transportation, lodging, anything else that's incurred, that's not covered by the Chapter 7 trustee. Correct.
Awesome. I think Matt has a few questions for you.
From the owner's perspective on the recalls, you just mentioned that there's going to be no reimbursement for the travel costs or any of those ancillary items. How about for unbricking a vehicle?
We've discussed it. I haven't gotten a definitive answer from the Chapter 7 trustees, so I'm going to say not for now. And the FOA had an attorney that fought pretty hard for the recall work and the budget to be rolled out. I think if it's going to become a prevalent thing, maybe the attorney has to speak to the Chapter 7 trustee, but ultimately it's going to be their decision on what ancillary, costs they would ultimately have to be responsible for reimbursing.
Yeah, so related to that would be any of the 12-volt batteries that were killed,
Right.
during any of the OTAs is
Right.
probably something that also kind of frequently happened, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
and to follow up, I think there was a number of folks to Will's point earlier where they had MCUs that couldn't be updated and they were updated and bricked, and then they would go back and get it unbricked, and then it would get bricked again through an update. So I think there's a number of those, probably a very small portion of people that are genuinely frustrated about that circumstance and probably wanting to seek some kind of reimbursement for those.
Please email us. We're happy to bring any of these extreme circumstances to the Chapter 7 trustee. It's ultimately going to be their judgment call. It's not my money and it's not my decision to make. I cannot do that.
Understood.
All right. Oh, back to Brandon for some more, I guess, tech questions.
Yeah, so you just mentioned that you have the shop in New York opening next week. You said that you have one in Waco, Texas, and LA. Do you have any plans for any like independent network of technicians willing to travel, such as myself or anybody else
So
that
again,
you're aware of?
so again, with the recall budget in mind that I just mentioned, if any certified techs with fast tools want to do this work and travel for those dollar amounts, please get in touch with me. We will absolutely plug you in. The trust, again, the bankruptcy plan does not provide for like traveling tech expenses, so travel and lodging and things like that. So, it would be entirely up to the technician that wants the job, but the more the better, and the more quickly we can get all these recalls addressed.
What kind of support can service technicians expect moving forward between Ocean Loop and American Lease?
So again, American Lease is really not going to be at the forefront of this. My fast tool broke. What should I do? That's an Ocean Loop thing. I have been working with the estate in Austria, in Graz, and what the cohesive universe looks like is Ocean Loop managing the software, the Fisker Austrian entity managing the hardware as far as the parts and supply. That's going to be directly plugged into the shops that are certified and onboarded. They're going to have an online portal where they can order stuff directly from Europe. We are going to bring some stuff stateside for once we get through some of the tariff things that we're trying to figure out. We're going to be bringing a warehouse worth of stuff over to the United States that would be plugged in and delivered from the US, but ordered through the Austrian entity that's going to be the distributor of all the spare parts. And there are a lot of them. We're also making spare parts that will be plugging into the chain. So that's all part of the same ecosystem. So the certified shops will have the fast tool supported by IndiGO, engineering support, potentially OFT to what we were discussing before, as well as a direct supply line of OEM brand new parts that are coming directly from the factories that made the materials for the Ocean.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. So now I think we're back over to Matt for a few regarding global.
Yeah, Josh, you mentioned about for Europe parts, and how about service for European owners? Is there going to be any network?
Yeah, there already are. There's a team of the original engineers from Graz that are online and functioning, and really the plan is to have them serve as mobile level 2 support. They are functioning now. The parts are in Europe, so people in Europe will probably get their stuff a lot faster. And there are shops that have signed up for the fast tool and are the certified shops in Europe. I don't have the list in front of me, but the plan is to bring some more on. We want to make sure that within a reasonable driving distance. Every country has a shop that can work on the oceans. But yeah, I think if anything, the supply chain and the support in Europe will be online faster and more easily distributed, even than the United States, because we still have to get a lot of the materials here.
Gotcha. The next question is, I guess, for both North America and Europe, regarding parts, is there going to be a direct way for owners to purchase parts, or is it going to have to be done through service centers or service techs?
Going to have to be done through service centers or service techs. Ultimately, it's not going to be my decision. It's going to be the Austrian entity's decision, but maybe they'll sell keys directly to owners or something like that. But the idea would be almost like, this is the OEM, they sell it to the dealership, you go to the dealership to get the work done, right? That kind of model.
All right. I guess back to Chad.
Yeah. So I guess the next question is around just the actual owners. So obviously owners being a part of OV Loop are going to want to provide feedback into like bug submissions or what, like have a vote or a say in what future enhancements could possibly be released. How do you plan on taking that advice and those submissions from those owners going forward?
Yeah, great question, Chad. And we love to take feedback from them as we go forward. The Ocean Loop at fiskerinc.com is a great way to do it. For the landing page, we may also provide not only some Q&A, but also any kind of feedback that you can directly plug in for the landing page. Our goal is to collect those, and if there's enough demand for certain types of features, or if there are bug fixes and issues that we see, we'll get our team on it. And so we're looking forward to having a direct relationship with the owners, and I think that's the key. And going forward, if that direct relationship allows us to offer better service and allow them to get better value, whether it's on the software side, the connectivity side, the service side, or the repair and maintenance side. It's a relationship going forward, and we're looking forward now to the next chapter, and excited about working with all of you as well as the other owners that are out there.
I think there's a lot of people that are excited to work with you guys as well. That brings up another question I would have around like when can we see some of this stuff in action, like actual product? And I'm not just asking about like the ICC image, but you've mentioned several times about an application extension to your current OVGo or Ocean. I'm not sure what the name of the app is, but when can we see some of that demoed or see it live and actually get it in the hands of some beta testers like myself, Matt, Brandon?
So we're going to lean on you guys. In fact, as our first beta testers, we'll have our internal QA. But I think within the next couple of weeks, what I'd like to do is maybe get you guys before we publish it to to the app stores. We'd like to maybe get you guys to be a beta user, whether you're on iOS or Android, and then have you guys provide us with some of that feedback before we release it out to the rest of the group.
Awesome. And I know we were trying to have Mike Tonys on here as well from the podcast EV Addict, but he ran into a scheduling conflict with a vacation that took him to the wilderness of no internet connection. So we want to have a follow-up with him as well. And maybe that would be a good timing is around the beta release of that app, and he could be a part of that, and we could do another screen share like this and go over some of the things we've seen, maybe even show that app to the public so they can see what they're going to get access to, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate you being on this front end of helping us help the owners, and really appreciate your honesty and your way of just getting the truth out there. And so we're here. We're not going anywhere. And it's not going to be perfect, Chad, and Matt and Brandon, because we're just, standing some of this up ourselves. But we definitely appreciate the feedback, and we're going to work earnestly with you to earn the trust and the business of the owners that are out there.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Will. I guess I'll leave it with that and just say if there's any other closing thoughts or if anybody has anything else to add before we let you guys go. I just want to say thank you for the time and I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to see the future of where OV Loop and in partnership with American Lease is going to take the Ocean, maybe to some places that the original Fisker plan had destined for it originally before everything fell apart.
Great.
Likewise. Thank you, Chad. Nice meeting everybody. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Chad, Matt,
Thanks.
Brandon.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thanks.